So UFC 282 Blachowicz versus Ankalaev is coming up this weekend, and I'm very late on my predictions. I apologize. I believe I was actually meant to release them 2 days ago, but yeah, just lots of stuff has been happening, man. I just haven't really been getting around to making the video, but now I'm finally here. So let's just get straight into the picks. Let's not waste too much more time. I'm already 2 days late. So Cameron Simon taking on Stephen Costello. I think Stephen Costello just has one of the greatest nicknames ever. Obi-Wan Shinobi the Pillow. Yeah, I'm going with Cameron Simon here. Minus 280 as a favourite is pretty wide. I feel like if Stephen Costello didn't take this fight on 1 week's notice, the odds might be a little bit different. Costello's got 6 wins. All 6 are by first round submission. It's very impressive to see what he does. One of his submissions is under a minute. It's kind of crazy. And what he does is he tries to use his wrestling and get the fight to the ground, but even like sometimes his opponent have taken him down, which is a little bit silly. But I think what's going to happen here, man, I think Costello's going to have a good first round, but with someone that has never left the first round, I don't know what this guy's conditioning is going to be in the second and third rounds, and I don't know what his conditioning is going to be in the second and third round, considering he took the fight on a week's notice. So I do like the Simon pick. I'm picking him to win. Simon, man, a lot of people are complaining about how they can't find much tape on this guy. You can find a lot of tape on him if you decide to pay for EFC Fight Pass, which I didn't do. So when I predicted him to lose against Joshua and Kim, all of my picks were based on his amateur career. But no, he looked so good against Joshua and Kim, and Joshua and Kim's underrated, man. This guy had like a 15-1 amateur record, but that's a good win. That's a better win than a 5-1 win is what a lot of people might be seeing. But yeah, Cameron Simon, I like him on the feet. I think he's great. Stephen Costello, we haven't seen much of him on the feet. I believe he's got a pretty unorthodox striking because he does kind of strike to close the distance and get takedowns. I think Simon's going to get taken down and get put in a weird position in the first round. I think he's going to come back, and I like Simon to get the finish in the second or the third round. Simon also has really good grappling himself. So give me Simon by KO or submission in the second or the third round, mainly due to the short notice, and also we don't know what Costello's going to look outside of the first. He's never been outside of the first, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Daniel De Silva taking on Venetia Salvador. Another Dana White's Contender Series prediction, which I got wrong. I didn't get many wrong. I went really good on Dana White's Contender Series, but Venetia Salvador, I picked him to lose against Shannon Ross, and he looked amazing against Shannon Ross. Shannon Ross was fighting with something wrong with him anyway, but Shannon Ross has actually been signed to the UFC as well, and you'll see him in Perth. But Venetia Salvador, before that Dana White's Contender Series fight, he just wasn't looking amazing. Like, he wasn't looking too impressive. Everyone that he was beating didn't have the best records in the world. Like a 9-3 is good, but before that, 2 debuting guys, another debuting guy in there. Every time he took a step up in competition or fought someone decent, he was losing. And yeah, I thought that maybe the same sort of thing was going to happen, but I think that he's going to get a finish over Daniel De Silva. Daniel De Silva's 3 losses in the UFC, all by finish. He was looking okay against Figueiredo, and then he made a really bad decision on the ground. But we just saw him got beaten up by Victor Altamirano, and I know he knocked down Altamirano, but Altamirano knocked him down and ground and pounded him out. And I believe after that, there was a conversation of maybe it was a late stoppage, like the ground and pound was that bad. This guy's coming off a lot of damage taken only 3 months ago. I don't think he's recovered properly, and I think Salvador's going to knock him out, man. Salvador's got 14 wins, 13 KOs on his record, which is absolutely insane. I think he's going to get another. I think he's going to knock out Daniel De Silva in the first rounds, man. I don't know why Daniel De Silva stuck around. Maybe him training with Charles Oliveira is a good reason, but he's on a 3-fight losing streak, 3-fight finish streak. I don't like it, man. I think Salvador is going to win this one by knockout. I think he's going to knock out De Silva in the first or the second round. I'm predicting first round KO for Salvador. I don't like the fact that De Silva took so much damage only a few months ago. Now, Eric Silva versus TJ Brown. I really like Eric Silva in this matchup. Not like a confident pick. I just like the fact that he's in the UFC. This guy is such a good prospect. It's just a shame that he's 36 years old, man. I wish he was younger. And as I said in my early predictions video, I thought that Eric Silva was going to be a shoo-in for the UFC, man. I thought he was 34 when I was making my prediction on the video on the fight against Anvar Buenazarov. I thought he was 34 years old. Like, I knew he was old, but I didn't realize he was almost 36. So if Eric Silva's going to try and make something happen in his career, man, he's got to make it happen now. And I think that TJ Brown is a winnable matchup for him. TJ Brown, he looks good in a lot of fights. He's got really good grappling as well as Silva. He was on a 5-fight first round submission streak, rear naked choke streak as well, before he got that crazy TKO over Anvar Buenazarov. But I like Eric Silva in this matchup. I think he's going to go to the grappling. I think he's going to be looking for the rear naked choke. He always looks for the back. TJ Brown against Shea Leonard and Becky, he was just put in weird positions on the ground. and I think that Eric Silva is going to be able to capitalize on those sort of situations. So I'm going to give Eric Silva the submission pick here. I'm picking Eric Silva to win by submission. Probably not in the first. I think TJ Brown's better than that. I'm going to go maybe a second or third round rear naked choke. Billy Quarantello taking on Alexander Hernandez. I'm going with Billy Quarantello. At first I was kind of thinking about a Hernandez pick, but this guy's never fought at featherweight before, to my knowledge, maybe, or at least he hasn't in the UFC. And I'm looking at him and I'm just thinking, where's the weight going to come from? Because he's going to be cutting a lot of weight to make 145. I've never actually looked at Alexander Hernandez at 155, aside from the Cowboy Cerrone fight, really, and thought, man, this guy's small for 155. I know Cowboy Cerrone was a lot bigger than him in that matchup, but that was the only time where I looked at that fight, him as a fighter, and I thought, man, he needs to go down. But I just don't know where the weight's going to come from. I like Billy Quarantello in the matchup here. I don't like the fact that Billy Quarantello was 34 in a lower weight class, but I think that he should be able to beat Alexander Hernandez here. Hernandez, and then he gets in a lot of wars, and in hindsight, he was doing pretty good against Renato Moicano, considering how good Moicano's run has been as of recent. But he lost to Moises, he lost to Doe, but everyone that he's losing to are really good fighters. But I think that Billy Quarantello is going to put the pace on Alexander Hernandez, and he's going to throw a lot more volume as well. And Alexander Hernandez, he's just not a guy that reacts well to getting outstruck on the feet. And I just think that Billy Quarantello is going to land more volume against him. And it's going to be a great fight. This is another fight of the year contender. Billy Quarantello's last fight against Shane Burgos could have easily been the fight of the year. It was just a shame that I believe it happened straight after or straight before Gaethje versus Chandler. But man, that was such a good fight, Quarantello versus Burgos, man. I think we're gonna get another war. I think Quarantello is gonna win it. I think it's gonna be a little bit more one-sided for Quarantello in this one here, and I think he's gonna win the fight by decision. So give me Quarantello to win this one here. Hernandez, man, dropping to 145. It's an interesting choice. Hopefully it works out for him, but I personally am going with Quarantello in this matchup. Chris Curtis taking on Joaquin Buckley here. I'm really not sure about this fight. I still am unsure. I have actually been looking at other people's opinions for this one because as I said, I'm just not sure. And it's split. A lot of people are picking Buckley, a lot of people are picking Curtis, but I don't mind Curtis in this matchup, man. I feel like Curtis, I don't think he was really exposed by Hermansson. I think it was just the fact that he just come in with a really bad game plan and it just didn't really work. It wasn't an exciting fight. Curtis blamed Hermansson for not... Yeah, it was just a weird fight. But the thing about Chris Curtis, man, this guy is not going to get KO'd by Buckley, in my opinion. He's been KO'd once in his entire career, and I believe that was earlier on in his career. Am I correct in saying that? And this guy's fought some really great fighters. This guy fought Andre Fialho, who I know isn't having a really good run in the UFC at all, but this guy's got a lot of KOs. The one KO loss was to Ray Cooper III at 170. He's never been KO'd at 185. Just went on such a good run in the UFC. It's hard to ignore, but... And the thing is, in hindsight as well, against Rodolfo Vieira, he looked really good, showed really good takedown defense in that matchup, but then he feared the grappling almost of Hermansson in that fight, which is weird because he didn't fear the grappling of Vieira, and then he feared the grappling of Hermansson. I feel like I'm just talking to a brick wall. I feel like I'm making no sense whatsoever in this matchup. I feel like Joaquin Buckley, man, I feel like he is a little bit underappreciated, but I'm still not completely sold on him at the moment. I'm going with Chris Curtis to win this one by decision. I think Buckley's going to pour it on in the third round like he did against Imavov, but I'm more so siding with Chris Curtis winning the first two rounds using his boxing and maybe using some wrestling as well. Let's move on. Not a confident pick, unfortunately. I wish it was. Now, Edmen Shabazzi taking on Dolce Lungimbula. This is a great fight. This is a really good fight to look forward to, in my opinion. But it really is win or go home for either of these two guys. And I'm siding with Edmen Shabazzi. It's hard to trust Edmen Shabazzi, but it is something you've got to do in this matchup here. It's a step down in competition, man. This guy, in hindsight, the KO in the first round over Brad Tavares is incredible. And then he lost to Derek Brunson, which isn't the best look in the world, unfortunately. He was going alright against Hermansson, and then he lost to Imavov, and he's taken a year off, and I believe he's not training with that Ronda Rousey coach anymore. I forgot his name, but I believe he's training somewhere else now. I think he's at another big gym, and I think he's going to make improvements. He's only 25 years old. He's someone that the UFC can invest in over time. Maybe they build him up against Dolce Lungimbula, and then if he wins this fight, they give him someone like Cody Brundage, you know what I mean? Like, I know Dolce Lungwambula just lost to Brundage, but it would make sense potentially. Like, someone like that where Edmen Shabazzi can keep fighting increasing levels of competition within the UFC, so maybe he can get back into that ranked position, you know? Like, this is a rebuild for him, man. Like, this is a bounce back. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, so was Dolce Lungwambula, but man, what a step down for Shabazzi. And I like Shabazzi in the striking. He's got good grappling as well, but I think for the most part the fight's going to take place on the feet. Lungwambula's got crazy long arms for 5'8". He's got a lot of power on the feet, but I think Shabazzi's going to win the fight on the distance. Then I think he should get it done here. Now, Yozino Rosenstrike versus Chris Dalkaus. I just can't trust a Dalkaus brother ever again. Like, the Dalkaus brothers, man, like, it's just not a good time for them right now. They're on a 4-fight KO losing streak. Between the two, Chris Dalkaus got KO'd by Derek Lewis and Curtis Blades, and his brother got knocked out recently by Eric Anders. That was Eric Anders' first KO win since 2018, which isn't a good look, and he also got knocked out before then by Roman Dolidze. So, not a good time for Dalkaus brothers right now, man. I think they're going to make it 5 in a row. I think Rosenstrike's going to knock out Chris Dalkaus. Rosenstrike hits hard. He hits harder than Curtis Blades, and he doesn't throw that much volume, man. I feel like if Rosenstrike just started throwing more volume, that would be different, because Dalkaus is going to be faster than him. Dalkaus has talked about cutting down to 205, and honestly, man, if he wanted to, I could easily see Chris Dalkaus just maybe losing a little bit of weight and making it down to 205, and I think that he could have success there. But at heavyweight, man, these guys are different. Like, Yozino Rosenstrike's 260 pounds, and there's not like a lot of non-muscle, you know what I mean? Like, Rosenstrike's just a big boy, and I think that he's going to be throwing heaters at Dalkaus, but if he stands there and does nothing, I think Dalkaus could pick him apart maybe with his speed, and then you maybe even use that black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that we've never really seen in the UFC. But I think Rosenstrike should get it done, man. I'm picking him to win by KO. I know he got smoked by Volkov recently and beaten by Blades in a weird fight. Like, he knocked out Sakai. Like, when he lets his hands go, he has so much success, and I think he's going to have success against Dalkaus, because Dalkaus is a pretty hittable dude. Like, he was getting hit by Shamil Abdurakhimov, and prior to that, you know, like, he wasn't really fighting good competition. But yeah, I just think that Rosenstrike is just a step up in competition, not really from his 2 losses, but from his wins. I think that Rosenstrike can get a KO. Now, Jay Perrin taking on Raul Rosas Jr. here. This is such an interesting fight to me for so many reasons. Obviously, the first reason is that Raul Rosas Jr. is only 18 years old, which is absolutely insane. And I'm happy for the guy, man. I'm picking him to win as well. But one thing I am going to say about Raul Rosas Jr.'s career is this guy has never faced any adversity in his career whatsoever. Like, he has blown through every opponent he's fought, you know. Like, he's just destroyed them all, really. Like, first round submission wins in his amateur career when he was like 16, and then he's had a super active 2022. Actually, this is crazy. I didn't even notice, but all of these are like first or second round finishes, and he's just destroying this level of competition that he's fighting. He took a step up in competition against Mando Gutierrez and had really good cardio, put the pace on with his wrestling, put the pace on with his grappling. And Rosas Jr., he's just really good. But the problem with I versus Jr. is that, as I said, he's had no adversity in his career whatsoever, and I'm going to be very interested to see what happens when he faces some adversity, because I think that Jay Perrin is going to be a tough test for him. I think that he's going to pass the test, but I think that Jay Perrin is going to put him maybe into a couple of positions where he doesn't want to be, you know. Like, I feel like Jay Perrin, he's got underrated wrestling, he's got really good wrestling. I think maybe Jay Perrin's going to defend a couple of takedowns that his opponent Mando Gutierrez wasn't. I think that Jay Perrin might be able to get up from positions that Mando Gutierrez wasn't able to. I think that Perrin as well, he's even got a bit of power in the hands, and the thing about Mando Gutierrez, his Dana White's Contender Series opponent, was Gutierrez wasn't really a KO threat. Jay Perrin kind of is. He doesn't have that many KOs in his career. Like, he is a wrestler with grappling ability, but he did almost finish Archie Lang in the end of the 3rd round, and it was a cool fight, and he was getting spurred on by the crowd as well. He was getting cheered. Like, Jay Perrin's a guy that's going to live off the crowd, and so is Raul Rosas Jr. This guy's 18 years old, and he's fighting like a very high prelim, the final prelim, like the featured prelim. Like, there's going to be a full crowd almost in capacity for this fight. It's going to be great, but the thing is, as I said, am a little bit concerned about what's going to happen if Raul Rosas Jr. ends up having to fight some adversity against Jay Perrin. Like, I know it's obviously stuff he would have trained for, but as I said, like, it's just something I am going to bring up. He's just never faced any adversity whatsoever, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I do like Rosas Jr. to win the fight here. I like his grappling so much. I'm going to pick him to win by submission late in the fight. I'm going to go with like a third round submission. He's going to finish J. Perrin, in my opinion, in the third round, which Bautista and Archie Lung couldn't do. But I just think the style of Rosas Jr., this guy, balls to the wall wrestling, balls to the wall grappling. He's going to be always shooting for takedowns. He's always looking for submissions on the back. He's super active. He's got great cardio. I like Rosas Jr. to get a finish in this one, man. Now, Bryce Mitchell versus Elliot Topuria. I think Bryce Mitchell's been underrated in the matchup, to be honest, but I do think Elliot Topuria is going to win. I feel like both guys are well-rounded fighters, but it's almost been described as Mitchell being the grappler, Topuria being the striker. But Topuria, I believe all 5 of his first wins in his career were by submission. I think the same sort of thing happened with Mitchell, but I think when it comes down to pure wrestling, I do think Mitchell's probably going to be the better wrestler. I think the grappling's going to be even, but you might want to give Mitchell the grappling advantage as well. But I think if the fight's on the feet, I know Mitchell dropped Edson Barboza, but during that whole fight, Edson Barboza was just scared of getting taken down. He was just scared of getting taken down. So I don't think Elise Burr is going to be scared of getting taken down from Bryce Mitchell. I think he's going to work his striking in this one, man. He's got really slick boxing. Threw a nasty combo against Joy Harbor after getting knocked down as well, which a lot of people probably could look at and say maybe maybe his striking defense isn't that good, this and that, but it was upper weight class. I think Elliot Topuria needs to stay at featherweight. I think it's his natural weight class for sure. I like Topuria striking. I think he's faster on the feet than Bryce Mitchell. I do just think he's the better striker than Bryce Mitchell, and I do think he's more powerful as well. Despite the Edson Barboza knockdown, I know, but Edson Barboza was scared of getting taken down. He just was. And when someone like Topuria is not going to be scared of getting taken down by Bryce Mitchell, I think it's going to open up just a lot more striking opportunity for Topuria. And I do think that Topuria is the much better striker in the matchup here. I know Mitchell's an underrated striker, and I know Topuria is an underrated grappler, but I do like Topuria in the matchup. And the thing about this fight as well, which is why it's a little bit of a gamble pick in my opinion, I don't see Topuria winning a decision over Bryce Mitchell. I feel like if Topuria is going to win the fight, I think he's got to win it by KO, because I do see Bryce Mitchell taking down Elliot Topuria and maybe holding him down for a minute or two in a round. Like, I do think that Topuria is going to have to get a KO in this matchup, and I am going with that. I would not be surprised if Mitchell wins the decision. I don't think Mitchell's going to be able to sub Topuria, because we know how good Topuria's grappling is. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. I do think Mitchell's underrated in the fight, but at the same time, I really do like Topuria as a prospect, and I do think this is a great prospect versus prospect fight, and I do think Topuria is going to win. Now, Darren Till taking on Dricus du Plessis. I'm picking Dricus du Plessis, and I'm picking him by submission. The MMA guru who's been going on so long about how no one talks about how good Dricus du Plessis is as a grappler. Dewey, I've been doing it the whole time. Like, I've been talking about Dricus du Plessis grappling for a long time. You know, like, this guy has 9 wins by submission and 7 wins by KO. I know he's a great kickboxer. I believe he's a K1 kickboxer as well. But I think his grappling isn't talked about much at all. Like, this guy has more submission wins than KO wins. And that says something. Most of this guy's wins are by submission. And I know a lot of them aren't really coming from him getting takedowns and then working his grappling. A lot of them early on in his career happened from him like working his striking, and then his opponents would go down, or they'll just give up a bad position on the ground after Dricus du Plessis had beaten them up quite badly, and then Dricus du Plessis would get a submission off that. But yeah, come on, Mr. Dewey, or the most Jewish man on the planet. I mean, I've been talking. I used to get stick for saying that Dricus du Plessis was starting off his career as a grappler, man. Like, I know he wasn't. Like, I know he's a kickboxer coming into MMA, but this guy, man, he's got so many submission wins in his career. But anyway, we know Dricus du Plessis is a great striker. We know Darren Till's a great striker as well. And Till, on the feet, has the style to beat du Plessis. He just does. And it comes down to the fact, is du Plessis going to go for takedowns? And I think he is. He was going for takedowns against Brad Tavares. He wasn't getting them because we know Brad Tavares has amazing takedown defense. I believe he shot for like 7 takedowns against Tavares. And we know that Till, man, unfortunately, I know it's Derek Brunson, but Darren Till was getting taken down almost at will by Derek Brunson. And I know Derek Brunson is a great wrestler, but he's He's old, man. He's old. And I think the Dricus Du Plessis, I don't know if he's going to be able to have the same success with the takedowns, but I think what's going to happen is the fight's going to start out on the feet. And I do think Till's going to have a lot of success at the start, but then I think that Du Plessis is going to start to initiate a grappling game. And I think he's going to start working the grappling. I'm going to be going with Du Plessis by decision or submission here. Darren Till, I got submitted by Tyron Woodley in a dominant loss. Man, we haven't seen Darren Till fight for a long time. He's fought 5 times in 4 years. I understand now why his fans are so desperate to see him fight. Like, this guy was 26 years old almost when he fought Tyron Woodley, and he's just fought 4 times since. I think Darren Till's got a career turnaround in him, but I think this is an interesting fight. I feel like maybe they could have given Till a better matchup than this one here. I like Du Plessis. I do think he's going to get it done, man, but Du Plessis' striking style does leave himself open to counters, and that's what Darren Till's so good at, man. He's really good at counter-punching, so give me Du Plessis. I'm going to be going with a submission here. Maybe later in the fight, because we saw how good his cardio was against Brad Tavares. Like, this guy was tired. Like, he was looking like he was gassed out, and then he poured it on in the 3rd round. So I think that Du Plessis, I'm going to go with 3rd round submission. Maybe Till wins a round, and then Du Plessis looks to use his grappling or something like that happens. But yeah, I'm going to be going with Du Plessis. Santiago Ponzinibio taking on Alex Moreno. This is at a catch weight of 180 pounds. Short notice fight for Moreno, man. I do think Ponzinibio is going to win it as well. I think if the fight was on a full camp, I genuinely would consider the Alex Moreno pick, because I do think Moreno is an underrated fighter. But I'm going to be going Ponzinibio. This guy's he's had very competitive losses. Split decision loss to Jeff Neal, and Jeff Neal's got a massive matchup against Shavkat Rakhmonov coming up. Split decision loss to Mikhail Pahea, who's on his way up right now as well, and a lot of people do think that Ponzinibio won that matchup. It was close. But Alex Moreno, man, coming off a really cool win against Matt Semmelsberger, where he beat up Semmelsberger badly. Semmelsberger rallied at the start of the 3rd. It was a fun fight. Beat Mickey Gall, beat David Zawada, and a year and a half ago now, I thought it was actually a lot sooner than that, he took on Danon Cerrone once again on like a week's notice. Like, this is what Moreno does, man. He fights these guys on short notice. And like Donald Cerrone, he knocked him out in the 1st round, but I don't think it's going to happen here. I think Ponzinibio is going to win the matchup. Short notice. Even Moreno said in an interview that, like, he, I don't know, by the sounds of it, I don't think Moreno's been, like, in a camp, you know what I mean? Like in camp, like Grant Dawson when he fought Mark Madsen on short notice. Grant Dawson was actually in a camp preparing for a fight that wasn't booked. Like, he was just preparing for a fight in general when he took that matchup. And by the sounds of it, Alex Moreno was just training, you know, doing some general training, doing some coaching, because that's what he does, because he does own his own gym. And then he just took the fight on short notice, so good for him. I know a lot of other people wanted the fight, but in hindsight, man, I feel like Brian Barberena making the matchup wouldn't make that much sense, because it would be a big step down in competition for Ponzi. I know Ponzi, I don't know if he's ranked right now, but he was ranked at one point very recently. But I like Ponzinibio to win the fight here by submission. I don't think Moreno's going to get knocked out. He's a pretty durable guy. We did see him lose to Anthony Pettis, which is a very poorly aging loss. I'm sorry, but yeah, I just think Ponzinibio is going to win the fight here. So yeah, give me Ponzi. It's going to be interesting though. So it's an interesting fight to be so high up on the main card. Like, I feel like Bryce Mitchell and this matchup could be swapped. I even feel like Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon as a co-main event is an interesting choice too. But man, the UFC is really throwing a lot of eggs in the basket with this one here. They really want Paddy Pimblett to win this matchup against Jared Gordon. I do think he's going to get it done. Am I picking all favourites? Oh my god. Am I picking all favourites again? Oh no. Don't tell me that's true. I think it is. No, Chris Curtis is an underdog. Eric Silva's pick'ems. Okay. Okay, alright. I mean, like, I don't do it on purpose, but it happens sometimes, man. But yeah, I'm picking Paddy Pimblett to win this matchup here. I do think he's going to get it done. Jared Gordon could be a live underdog here. Really could be, because I think that Paddy Pimblett fans are going to beat this guy up into Paddy Pimblett, that is, to be like a massive favourite. Gordon could end up being like a very big plus money. But the thing about Gordon is, like, his durability is concerning to me. This guy's been finished 5 times in his 5 losses. He's been finished by Jeff Lentz early on in his career, and he got knocked out by Fahea, knocked out by Joaquim Silva, knocked out by Charles Oliveira, and then he got finished by Grant Dawson very late in the 3rd round. But this guy has never lost a decision. He's always lost by finish. He's got knocked out 4 times. Paddy Pimblett on the feet, he's not as technical as Jared Gordon, but he is a little bit more dangerous, I would say. He's got more power. He is, like as I said, he's not as technical as Jared Gordon. Jordan on the feet really could have a lot of success if he can rely on that technique and that movement and try to outstrike Paddy Pimblett. But I think that Paddy Pimblett's going to be working the grappling, working the wrestling as well, and trying to make Jared Gordon think. But I really think this is a pretty risky matchup because a lot of people are saying, man, like, when's it time to give Paddy Pimblett like a tough matchup? This is a tough test for Paddy Pimblett. This is a big step up in competition from Jordan Levitt. This is a big step up in competition from Rodrigo Vargas and Luigi Vendramini. But the thing about Jared Gordon is I just don't see him being a threat to knock out Paddy Pimblett. I don't think he's going to finish Pimblett. I think he's going to have to win a decision. And I don't think Gordon's going to be able to beat Pimblett by decision. So it's kind of like the same thing with his last opponent, Jordan Levitt. I would never have seen Jordan Levitt knocking out Paddy Pimblett. But the thing is with Rodrigo Vargas is Vargas has power. Vargas was a KO threat on the feet for as long as the fight lasted. Luigi Vendramini, same sort of thing. He hurt Pimblett at one point, but I just don't see Jared Gordon getting a KO. They could age really badly, but I think that Paddy Pimblett's going to win the matchup here. I'm going to go with a submission as well, but I think it's going to be met with a tough first round. It's going to be interesting though. Like, the thing about Pimblett is I wonder how loud the cheer is going to be. I think it's going to be very loud. And I wonder if they're going to boo Jared Gordon, because what's so crazy is when Molly McCann fought against Erin Blanchfield was from New York, the fight was in New York, Blanchfield was getting booed by her own crowd, and Molly McCann from the UK was getting cheered. It was so crazy. And I think maybe the same sort of thing's going to happen here, because if people are going to cheer Molly McCann, they're going to cheer for Paddy Pimblett, you know, so it's going to be interesting though, like, interesting to see what happens. But yeah, we've got the main event. It's such a weird pay-per-view, like, it doesn't feel like I don't have big pay-per-view energy. Like UFC 281, I had big pay-per-view energy. UFC 280, I had big pay-per-view energy, and now it's just kind of, oh yeah, the main event, like Blachowicz versus Ankalaev. Like, I mean, if it was Yuri versus Glover, it would be big pay-per-view energy, but they just don't have that energy surrounding this card. But I'm going to be going with Magomed Ankalaev in this matchup here. This guy fights really well from range. People probably see the name and where he's from, probably think he's a wrestler, which he kind of is. Like, he does have really good grappling and really good wrestling himself, but this guy also does have very underrated striking. We saw him fight Thiago Santos in a very boring main event, to be fair, and after that fight I was like, never give Magomed Ankalaev a main event again. Like, I just can't watch this. And he did get dropped in that fight, so we have seen him face adversity in his career, especially at the high level in UFC. Anthony Smith as well, we just dominated Anthony Smith, but Anthony Smith like claimed to have like broken his leg or something, I think, or broken his foot, but he's already got a fight booked, I believe. So I think that was, I don't know, I don't think the injury was as bad as Smith was claiming. I think it might be, I don't know, I don't want to say it's an excuse, but Smith kind of is liable to saying stuff like that. But yeah, it's just a weird fight, man. Magomed Ankalaev dominated him. Smith got injured in the fight, I know that, and then just Ankalaev dominated him from there on out. But yeah, I think Ankalaev beats Jan. Like, we saw him beat Oostemir, and that's somewhat of a similar matchup, and it was a snoozer of a fight, I know, which is why I'm worried about this one too. That when he come on the scene, like, this guy was so exciting. Like, he was beating up Paul Craig, and then he got submitted in the third. At the very end of the third, like, why, if he didn't tap, this guy would be undefeated. This guy would be like, what, like 19-0, and then he smoked Prakniel, destroyed Dolce Lungwambula with a front kick, knocked out Ian Kutalaba twice because of that weird reffing situation. Like, it's just, Ankalaev just, man, he's just lost it, man. He's lost it for me. I'm just not that interested in him anymore. With Jan Blachowicz, he's got that one-punch power, and I saw someone on Instagram say, yeah, Blachowicz is powerful, but he doesn't have one-punch power, and I'm just thinking, what? Like, what are you watching, man? Like, Blachowicz has got some crazy KOs, which he's done with one punch. I know, like, he set up, I know he knocked out Reyes with a combination, but it still is pretty much one-punch power. Same sort of thing with Luke Rockhold, that's a one-punch KO. Corey Anderson, same sort of thing as well. He knocked out earlier on in his career as well. He knocked out Glover Teixeira very early on in the fight. Or did he? Am I capping, guys? I think I might be. No, he lost to Glover Teixeira. What am I talking about? Oh, I'm so late into the video. Normally I'll just restart this and give up, but no. Okay, I lied. I thought he knocked, or maybe he knocked down Glover early on. But anyway, point is, Jan does have the power to finish the fight with one punch if he needs to. But I don't think Ankalaev's going to give him that opportunity. I think Ankalaev's going to kick from range with his kicks. He does have really good kicks. He does have really good body kicks. So does Jan. I mean, he beat up Reyes' body really bad before he ends up getting the KO. But I just think that, man, Jan's almost 40 years old at this point, and Ankalaev is 30. You know, Ankalaev's got time in his prime, and I think that Ankalaev as well is going to be a good champ. He said he wants to fight often. I love to see that. I think Ankalaev beats Jan by, I'm going to say, like, decision, like, late finish, but I don't think it's going to be that exciting, unfortunately, because Ankalaev's recent fights just haven't really been that way. I think it's going to be a similar matchup to Thiago Santos, which is, I'm sad saying that, but I do think it is. I think Jan's going to be chasing the KO, but Ankalaev's going to be wary of it. I think he's going to use his movement, use his kicks, and I think he's going to use his wrestling as well if he needs to. We've seen Jan's got incredible takedown defense, but as soon as he gets taken down, he doesn't work his way back up very well at all, you know. Like, we saw him get taken down by Glover, and, you know, Glover subbed him pretty easily, man, which is kind of crazy, and Jan kind of just gave up in that position. But I think that Magomed Ankalaev's going to kind of put Jan in the same sort of situations, but I think that, yeah, Magomed's just going to hold him down and win the decision. And then I think he's going to fight Glover, defend his belt against Glover, and then I think he's going to fight Yuri after that. So it should be cool times in there. But as I said, I just don't feel like the big pay-per-view energy. And also, Antonio Tricoli dropped out of his Oven St. Preux fight. So Oven St. Preux lost 3 fights for this card. I know Impa Kasanganay wants to fight him on short notice, so that could be cool, but I just don't have big pay-per-view energy. Like, the main card, like, is cool. Like, Bryce Mitchell versus Topuria is massive. And then aside from that, like, Till versus Duplessis is a great fight. Like, I'm sorry, but Ponzinibio versus Moreno, even Ponzinibio versus Lawler, I'm sorry, just doesn't give me, like, whoa, like, this is such a crazy pay-per-view. And then, like, Pimbler versus Gordon's your co-main event. Like, it's just such a tough one for me, man. Like, I wish Yuri was still here. Oh, we missed out on Yuri so much, man. If we still had the Yuri versus Glover fight, it would be so good. I just don't know. Let me know if you feel the big pay-per-view vibes from me. Like, I know Till's a great name. I know Mitchell versus Topuria is a great fight. I know Ponzinibio is a cool name. And I know Lawler versus Ponzinibio would have been fun, but, like, it's not like massive pay-per-view vibes, you know. I'm not getting those vibes. I'm excited. I just don't know how to explain it, but yeah, let me know what you guys think. It's cool card, but pay-per-view, it just doesn't feel like, whoa, wow, this is so, like, crazy cool. But yeah, let's see.